Hello and welcome to today's show. My name is Jeremy, and as always, we're here experimenting. Today, I sat down with Dawn Fotopulos, where we talked about how to think like a banker and turn your business into an empire. And some other updates. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for tuning in today. A special thank you to Contactually for bringing this episode to you. I'll share more details about that with you towards the end of today's episode. Gosh, where do we start? So much has happened. I'm fresh off of a plane from Denver. I got to go out there with one of my good friends and spent a week out there. I fell in love with the area, with the scene, and everything they have going on over there. So that was good. I also got these mouth shackles off, so I still have some more work to do, but I'm so pumped that I can talk right, at least when my retainer's not in, like it's not right now. Don't tell the doc. But yes, also if you hear my stomach grumbling, I swallowed some apple cider vinegar and it's not sitting well. But other than that, we have some good stuff for you today. The reason I wanted to bring on Dawn to chat today is because finances and understanding numbers is something that I truly struggle with. And I figure if I'm struggling with it, then I'm sure there's some other people out there who could use a little bit of help. I wouldn't say I'm completely numbers illiterate, but they look backwards when I look at them, just to give you a little insight. So finances are important. It's what helps our business run. It's what puts the roof over our head. So I think you're gonna like some of that stuff that we have in here for you today. On top of that, what's really cool, Dawn's mission is to eliminate businesses that fail, and half of them apparently right now fail that start. So imagine if all business owners, new entrepreneurs knew about finances and business, how much more successful they could be from day one. So let's go ahead and go to that interview now. Again, Dawn is the author of Accounting for the Numberphobe, a survival guide for small business owners. Here's a bunch of food for thought for you. I'll see you on the other end of the chat. And you said something that piqued my interest in the terms of thinking like a banker. And I know this has a very positive context, or can have a positive context for us entrepreneurs. Tell us more about what that mindset kind of looks like, and maybe just the basics of what we should know in that mindset and how it might impact us.
Good. Those are really good questions. And they speak to chapters 6 through 9, in fact. It's a great little jump off. Because your balance sheet, which is the third gauge on your financial dashboard, is going to show you whether or not you have adequate debt levels or if your debt is too high. And the thing that the banker is going to scrutinize is your balance sheet. So it's really important that you understand how to read your own balance sheet and what it's telling you. So there are really only three parts to the balance sheet. There's assets, which are things that you own. There are things like cash or things that are convertible into cash like inventory, or accounts receivable, people that owe you money. So assets, those are good things. We want those things to grow, right? That's why we're in business. Liabilities, which are things that we owe, that the business owes others, like suppliers. We owe suppliers. We owe, our web designers. We owe our marketing people, whatever. Those are liabilities. And then owner's equity. And owner's equity is simply the difference between the two. So if owner's equity is positive, it means your assets are greater than your liabilities, and you want that. That's what you want to drive towards. It means that eventually what we want to do is, hopefully, we want to sell the business. We want to build something that has value. Instagram was sold for $1 billion. I mean, why was that? Because they had 1 million active users that were worth a lot of money to Facebook.
Some great assets.
Very nice assets, So, but we can do that even as small businesses. We can build businesses that have terminal value. We may not get $1 billion for them, but if we're going to knock ourselves out for 10 or 15 or 20 years, don't you want to have something to show for it at the end of all that time? And I think you do. So the first thing the banker is going to look at is your balance sheet. And what the balance sheet is the balance sheet is sort of the catcher's mitt. It collects all the data and information from the P&L, from the profit and loss statement, and from the cash flow statement in one place. And so it's a really efficient way that a banker has to look at the status of your business. So that's the first thing. So the balance sheet's going to get scrutinized. The second thing is you got to remember, as a former banker, okay, banks are in the business of making money and reducing risk. So they're not going to loan you money if there's a high risk that you're not going to get a return. So one of the things that I did, I had a company called Bedazzled 1,000 years ago, and we did screen printed T-shirts. And it doesn't sound very sexy, but we sold Lands End yacht stores, and we sold some really big accounts. I had a great business partner. She was a very talented graphics designer, so the graphics were gorgeous. And
Were you guys the like on TV commercials for Bedazzled?
no, 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 I
Okay,
don't think.
gotcha. Okay.
But but what we did was we needed an SBA loan, a Small Business Administration loan, in order for us to get that Land's End order out the door, because I had to buy fabric and I had to, finance all that stuff up front before Land's End paid me. But I had the Land's End order in my hand, so when I went to the bank for financing, I had the good household seal of approval. Land's End had already given us a purchase order. So essentially, we had collateral against the loan. And Land's End is such a great company, and they were so profitable that the bank was basically not banking on us. They were basically taking the risk that Land's End was going to pay the bill at the end of the day, which they did. So we got a $70,000 loan against that collateral. So basically, you got to prove to the bank that there are people out there that want what you're doing, right? So the balance sheet, your assets have to be strong, and you got to prove to the bank that you got customers. So one of the things that we did when I was at this Intuit conference, which I thought was brilliant, is they said, whenever you have a vision, whenever you have an idea, go out into the market and just test it. Just test it. Don't go big. Don't go broad. Don't go for the big bucks. Just test it. Test it in a small way. See if you have a few customers. Get some feedback from those customers to see if you're on the right track. Refine your model. Refine what you're doing. And then go back out to those same customers and make them collaborators, because you know what? If they bought from you once, then they obviously like what you're doing. Or if they've donated once, they like what you're doing. And make them collaborators. Get feedback from them. Get feedback from their networks. And then you take that to the bank when you're ready to scale. The bank wants to know that you have a viable idea. So the best that you can do is get that viable idea and get some data, right? It's all about the data. Get some proof. Get some evidence that what you're doing matters. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And I love this because a lot of us get so caught up in the idea that we forget and neglect and don't even think about all of these other things that we need to consider as business owners, as world changers, as entrepreneurs, and all of those things. So it fits perfectly right in. It's one of those, we have the idea, and then what do we do with it? Where do we go with it? How do we
Right.
make this happen?
That's
And,
right.
we're talking about liabilities and assets and all those things. Most people think a car is an asset. Like we have the story backwards so often, that it's great hearing you clarify and hearing some of those things that you've focused on in your project. I want to talk.
Oh, yeah. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say one thing. When you're learning something that's new and intimidating, if you just learn the terminology, if you just learn the language, that clarifies so much. So I was giving a seminar on accounting for the numberphobic, right? A survival guide for small business owners. And there was a lady in the seminar who cut children's hair, and she had a multi-million-dollar business. And when I described that accounts receivable was nothing more than just people that owed you money, she jumped up in the middle of the session and she said, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, "No, that's all it is." She said, "I've got $75,000 in AR." I said, "Really? So what are you going to do about that?" She said, "Well, I got to collect against those invoices." I said, "Great idea." So most of what the book is about is just teaching you the terms, and then suddenly your eyes open up and you understand really basic things that become intuitive.
That is great insights, and it's just so funny. I mean, I have a ways to go and lengths to go in knowledge and learning all of these things, hands down. But it's just so funny how often those terms, they kind of cloud and scare us away. They turn us into number phobes with
Right.
those names and some of those things. We just
That's right.
naturally start to disregard it. So speaking in the sense of entrepreneurs, what else do you see happening in terms of pitfalls? How else can we avoid some of these major mistakes that can cause us to go into failure as early as possible?
Okay. Well, the first thing is you got to buy my book, not because I
Of
wrote it.
course.
Honest to
Of
God,
course.
you should get the book and you should read it the way you'd read a fine wine. So it's not a book to go racing through. It's a book to dog-ear the edges, to highlight. And what I'm going to do, just so you know, is I'm having Google Hangouts once a month for 10 months because we have this Know Your Numbers campaign because I'm on a mission to promote financial literacy for small business owners. So if you learn this stuff up front, it won't be intimidating anymore. And plenty of access to ask questions, plenty of access to even send me your profit and loss statements. I'll look at them. We can review it. And so the other thing that I have is I have an assessment. It's a true false 10-question assessment. And I can send you the link, Jeremy, that you can just see how much you really do understand just to benchmark where you are, right? Because some people understand more than others. So you start there. And then the other thing that's really important is you need to put a plan together. Even if the plan is going to change, the small business development centers, the SCORE offices, they're all over this country. And there are plenty of incubators that will show you how to write a business plan. Best Small Biz Help, which is my award-winning blog, I talk about how to put business plans together. And it's just really answering a series of questions as best you can. And what the plan is a roadmap. And sometimes there are roadblocks when you go onto that road, and so you
Absolutely.
have to make some detours, but at least you have the map to begin with. And a lot of people are, visionaries. We need visionaries because they're the disruptors. They're the ones who change the game. But the visionaries need to partner with people who are the practical, who are the operators. And they need to listen to those operators. And if an operator says, that's a great vision, but we need to bring it back to reality, they need to listen to those operators because they'll keep them out of quicksand, And they'll keep the visionaries focused, which is another challenge for visionaries. They're an idea a minute, and so they're, letting 1,000 flowers bloom, but that's another quick way to burn through cash and to go bankrupt quickly. The idea is find the one idea that you really feel passionate about and go after that one idea and just keep plugging away at that idea until you get enough data to say, we need to scale this or we need to shut our doors.
Boom. There you have it. Special thank you to Dawn for coming on with us today. Be sure to check out her book. The Amazon affiliate link that I have is below. I would appreciate if you use that. Dawn's book is, again, Accounting for the Numberphobe, a survival guide for small business owners. All of the resources for this episode and more can be found at jeremymontoya.me. So be sure to hop over there. And wherever you are at, be sure to subscribe, whether it's iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, or over on the website. Hit join, hit subscribe. Let's be friends and let's do more of this together. Also, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway or what you learned, or if it sparked a question in your mind, I'll be sure to send those over to Dawn so that she can answer them. And she also mentioned something about some personal time that she'll spend with you guys. So I'll make sure to put the links and all of that so that you can be in contact with her. At the beginning of today's show, I mentioned that today's episode is brought to you by Contactually. So special thank you to them. One of the reasons I'm pumped to be using Contactually and to be sharing it with you is because when I'm around people, I'm naturally an extrovert. I like networking. I like being around people, talking, shaking hands. I feel like I can make a good impression, and I just like the environment. But when I leave, I'm an introvert. When I'm alone right now in this room like I am, I'm naturally an introvert, so it's hard for me to take initiative to follow up sometimes. It's hard for me to think about the two stacks of business cards that I have over here from my recent trip to Denver and from all those things. So again, thank you to Contactually for bringing this episode to you. To sign up for a free trial, visit jeremymontoya.me/contactually, where you can try it out for free, see how it works. It'll allow for you to follow up not only with business contacts and relationships, but also with your personal ones, whether that's your spouse or your best friend. It lets you know when it's been too long to start that conversation back up and keep it moving. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. I'm calling this Experiment 1, and I'm calling this the Montoya Experiment. And we're in for a little ride together. So be sure to subscribe. You'll know when the next episode comes out. Again, my name is Jeremy Montoya. I'll see you guys after the episode over on Twitter at JVMontoya. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I love each and every one of you, and I'll see you guys later.